Pittsburgh Sportsline. Got a great show for you tonight. I'm Mike Migliori. I'm with Chip Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Got some really big news even just today. A couple of stories heard on the way in. We'll start off with what's on your mind. Al, what's on your mind?
Okay, Mike, one of the first things I want to start talking about is the guy we weren't talking about for the last month or so. Sidney Crosby was just cleared for contact. What that means is my prediction's almost coming true, fellas. Wasn't that at the end of the year that I predicted in March? Somehow, some way he would come back and try to do it. So I'm hopeful before the end of the month. But seriously, he did work hard. They've been showing that all the time. And hopefully these symptoms will disappear and won't come back again after 8 days or 5 days or a couple guys hitting him. Hopefully Orpik and a couple other guys hit him in practice and then he'll be ready to play. So, I mean, that's some of the things that I'm thinking about, and I'm hopeful. And one of our co-hosts here, Chip Hayner, showed me an article on ESPN, so I'm going to steal a little bit of his thunder. It said Evgeny Malkin has surpassed Sidney Crosby as the greatest player in hockey right now, just to paraphrase that. And Magic Mike at the end has been saying that for so long that we all believe that, and he has proved it with how he's been playing. He's even averaging about 1.5 points per game during this streak that he's come up with. So he's almost up to Sid's percentage when I think he was doing about 1.68 points a game before he got hurt with the concussions. So that's what's on my mind.
You're not done yet? What about that phone number?
Phone number? Oh, for 412-831-3304. Give us a call. Pittsburgh Sportsline at gmail.com. Give us a call with email or on the phone.
All right, thanks, Al.
Anytime.
Smoking Jim, you promised us something last week. Time to come through. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Magic Mike. Just want to let everybody know about my experience when I met the greatest quarterback that ever played in the National Football League, Brett Favre. And a lot of people don't realize that, everybody talk about how tough Brett Favre is. And, he's the toughest guy since Evel Knievel. Back in 1991, Brett Favre was, 1990, Brett Favre was a senior at Southern Mississippi. Getting ready for his senior year, got into a car accident that actually killed his best friend. This was a few months before the season. They ruled him out for the year to take a red shirt. He lost his spleen. He lost 30 pounds, but he showed up the first game of the season against the University of Pittsburgh right here at the old Pitt Stadium and almost beat the University of Pittsburgh. And right then I said he was the best quarterback of that draft. Of course, most people had Mark McGuire's brother, who was 6'8", as the best quarterback in the NFL, and that's who went first and ended up being a bust. But anywho, Brett Favre's first year in Minnesota, I got a chance to go into the locker room before the game here at Heinz Field to meet Brett Favre, and I knew right then and there that he was on. He was on his game. He had a lot of balled up tape, and he was beaning people about from 30 yards away. He was snapping towels, so I was able to break the ice with Brett Favre real early because a good friend of mine was his wide receiver at Southern Mississippi, Michael the Thriller Jackson, who used to play for the Cleveland Browns, and then we talked about Louis Lips, who also played at Southern Mississippi, was older than Brett. But then both of us got a little teary-eyed because we talked about Ear McNair. And Steve Ear McNair was Brett Favre's best friend. And they lived real close to Mississippi, and they used to go fishing all the time. So I gave Brett a little tip. I said, Brett, today against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the weak link is number 22, William Gay. And if anybody goes back, that started the year and a half slide from William Gay. Brett Favre torched him. He picked on him all game. Even the running back, Adrian Peterson, not only ran him over, but stepped on his chest. So that's my Brett Favre story. You heard it here from the scout. Next week, you'll get Terrell Pryor.
Oh, jeez. What a story.
Thanks, Jim. Chip, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is Friday was an anniversary of sorts in sports, and it was an anniversary of a record that I feel will never be broken. Jim was just mentioning about Brett Favre and his record of 297 straight starts in the regular season is another one of those records that won't be surpassed. But on March 2nd, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a basketball game.
Wow.
And that's a pretty amazing statistic in and of itself. And it caused me to look some things up about Wilt Chamberlain and just some statistics from that year. That year, he averaged 50.2 points per game for the entire season. He averaged 48 and a half minutes a game, and basketball games are only 48 minutes long. For the season, he averaged 48 and a half minutes. He averaged 27.2 rebounds per game.
Wow.
And for the season, he scored 4,029 points. Now, just to kind of put this in perspective, in Michael Jordan's best season in winning scoring titles, the most points he ever scored in one season was 3,041. And he blew that away by 900 and change. During that span in that season, he went through a streak where he sunk 35 straight field goals during the course of the season. And the most amazing statistic I found out about Wilt Chamberlain was that over his entire career, 13 years in the NBA, he fouled out not once. And that is just amazing, and it speaks to the talent he had. But, that's a record that I don't think will ever be approached. I think that goes along with Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak, Cal Ripken's Iron Man streak, and I just think that needed to be recognized, and not so much the game, which was played at Hershey Arena here in the center of the state, but the season that he had is just, I don't think anybody will ever again do that. But that's what's on my mind, Mike.
Good job, Chip. And don't forget that year, there was such a Wilt Chamberlain bias that year he wasn't even MVP of the league, which was a joke.
He might be the MVP of the league all time. Everybody talks Michael Jordan because they've seen him play and stuff, but Wilt Chamberlain, who probably not as many people are still alive that have seen him play, was definitely the greatest basketball player of all time.
Man.
Well, and to be mentioned in the same breath was Bill Russell. 13 years in the league, won 11 championships. That's something else that I don't think we're ever going to see anything. He played at the same time as Wilt, and I believe his Celtics teams overshadowed Wilt's amazing statistics. But he was just such an incredible athlete. He was like he was playing with children, and he was playing against grown men.
Well, thanks, Chip. On my mind, I got to go back to the Penguins. Once again, Sidney Crosby's been cleared to practice with contact. Don't know how long it'll take before one of his teammates decides to go ahead and take a run at him and actually hit him a few times. I think they'll probably be kind of careful with him anyway. But there's a pretty good chance that he may start playing as soon as Sunday against the Bruins, which was the last team that he played against after during his 8-game spurt a little earlier in the season. Everybody's excited that Sidney's coming back, and it should be very good news. But right now, the Penguins are the hottest team in the league. Evgeny Malkin, I've always said, is the greatest player in the league, and he is on a tear. You have to wonder what's going to happen when Sidney comes back. Hopefully, he makes the team better and everything's great. With Crosby back playing the way he has always played, you have to like the Penguins to be like the #1 contender for the Stanley Cup this year. But there's something to be said for chemistry. And when Crosby and Malkin were on the power play earlier, when Crosby played his 8 games, they went 4 for 24 on the power play. Right now, the Penguins have the #1 special teams unit in the league. Between the power play and the penalty killer combined, they're #1 in the league. There's a question, like I said, again, of chemistry. People that you listen to on the radio, who probably don't know very much anyway, will talk about taking Kunitz off of the Malkin line and putting him on a line with Crosby. I think that's a huge mistake. Malkin, Kunitz, and James Neal are not only the #1 line on the team, they're the #1 line in the league. You have to keep that line together. But Al gave you the phone number. We'll let him give it to you again here in a minute. But if you're out there and you're watching and you're thinking, who would I start my team with? Would I rather have Crosby or Malkin? How about give us a call? Let us know what you think. Personally, if I had to draft a team from scratch, my first pick would be Marc-Andre Fleury, but my first player that I would pick would be Evgeny Malkin. I think, again, I think we have the three best players in the league to have. I think it's hard to put them in any particular order, but as far as goal scoring and skaters, I think Evgeny Malkin's the best player in the league.
I got to second you on that. There's no question he's playing head and shoulders above everybody else. And, Dan Bilesma has kind of an interesting problem. And I know a lot of coaches would wish they had the same problem. Where do I fit Sidney Crosby into an already established team? And they've taken the season so far. They started off pretty good. They went through a little dry patch. And then, of course, there was the 7 or 8 game losing streak where everybody was, talking about revamping the complete team. They really haven't done anything as far as making player moves, and they've gelled and they're playing very, very well together. It'll be interesting to see who they pair Sid up with, and I think he shouldn't. Well, he shouldn't be on the first line. His second or third line is the line that Sid should be skating on, because the first line, as Mike stated, is they're just playing lights out.
I have no argument there, and the phone number is, since there's no Penguin game tonight, 412-831-3304. We want to hear your opinion, see what you think about this. Do you think they should take Kunitz off that first line? I think it's almost unanimous here that you don't, and chemistry does mean something, but results mean much more. And like you say, the statistics and everything else seem to back that up. Bilesma's a smart coach. He's done a lot with this team. And I think he'll do the right thing and not break up that first line. And even on the penalty, when they're having a penalty that they have to run the team there, Sid may not be able to go on the offensive there right away. They have a pretty good unit there. Maybe they'll move him in for Sullivan, put him out there once in a while where he's at, see how he is and see how he's taking these hits. So let's see what happens there.
Do you guys agree with Sidney coming back, say as early as Sunday, or would you hold him out for the rest of the season and hopefully he heals up and plays next year?
If he's able to play, I would put him in, definitely put him in. I don't know, just because he's cleared for contact today, I don't know if that necessarily means that he'll be able to play Sunday or be ready to play Sunday. He has to, I guess, absorb some hits in practice and see how that goes. But if you can get him back, I mean, he's one of the top 3 players in the league. I would definitely get him out there to see what happens. It's just a question of, the chemistry, got to see how that works. You hate to see that stifle what Malkin has been doing so far. Malkin always seems to shine when Crosby's out. When Crosby comes back or when Crosby's in the lineup, Malkin sort of, backs up into like a second, the second spot or whatever, out of the spotlight usually. I would hate to see that happen, because what Malkin's doing this year is like a very special thing. He's just been putting on a show. So, but maybe, you'd like to hope that they get in, coexist a little bit, maybe put them out there at the same time now and then to see what happens. But the Malkin line, the Neil Malkin-Kunitz line, is something I would not tamper with at all. I would like to see Crosby matched up with Steve Sullivan, and I guess possibly either Pascal Dupuis, or maybe even somebody like Aaron Asham, who has a scoring touch and is a little bit rough and can go into the corners and dig the puck out. One of the things Steve Sullivan is a great playmaker, great passer, great playmaker, and that kind of helps a player like Crosby out a little bit more than a player like Malkin. Malkin sort of create stuff while he's out there. It's good to have him out there with Kunitz, who will dig the puck out of the corner and kick it out to him, or James Neal, who will take a shot, because Malkin always does his best work either producing off of a rebound or picking up a puck someplace instead of a specifically designed play. Whereas Crosby and Sullivan will probably work a lot better together like that and get somebody up on that line with them, like Dupuis, or Dupuis pretty fast, or Aaron Asham, who go into the corners and bang around a little bit and dig that puck out and get it out to the playmakers. So I think right now that the Penguins, if a line like that works, the Penguins are going to be a very hard team to beat because your other line with Jordan Stahl, Matt Cook, and now Tyler Kennedy is back on the ice playing again, and he looked pretty good last night. Those three lines, run those three lines out. There's very few teams that can put three lines out on the ice like that.
Well, those are three lines that, any team would make their first line. I think any one of the three could. And I think, if Crosby is able to come back on Sunday, you do have to get him in there and play because I think, you can practice all you want, but you can't really reproduce the emotion and the speed that you see in the games. And I think really he's going to need to play himself back into shape, so that he can be a contributor when they hit the playoffs. And it looks like the Penguins are headed in the right direction. 6-game winning streak they're riding on right now. And they've got a tough stretch between now and Sunday. They've got 3 games. They've got a game tomorrow, Friday, Sunday, and it'll be interesting to see how they rise to that challenge.
Well, I think, Smoking Jim, since you're the emperor of the Coliseum, you put the gladiator out when he's ready to get in the game. And I think, Sid, they've been showing so many of these pregame or during the day skates, and he's traveled to each city that they've gone to. And it sure looks like he's zipping around there, and just the little exercise he's doing before the game, they're showing everything he's doing. He looks in super shape. It's just whether he can take a hit and not have those concussion-like symptoms there. So we're all hopeful there, but I say put him in as soon as he's ready to go and see what happens, because he may need a year or two off if he doesn't make it this time.
When they're going to unveil the statue?
Tomorrow noon. Big Lemieux will be out there.
With Crosby coming back again, should be a greatly improved team, but they're still missing one key part, and Chris Letang is a major loss to the Penguins. Hopefully, he will be able to get back into the lineup soon. Also, he's a player that contributes a lot more than you actually see on the score sheet. He puts in sometimes 30, 35 minutes a game. He's a key part of the power play, and even though he is a very good offensive player, a lot of people don't realize how good a defensive player he is. He blocks a lot of shots, he hits a lot of players, and he's almost always just in the right position. He's a key part for their Stanley Cup hopes, and hopefully he'll be back a lot sooner than later.
Well, again, these concussions they're happening so frequent there. You wonder how you can prevent it, or just these guys are the talents that we see, they're just going to be out of their career, because for Tang to get another concussion like that, did you see the hit that he took? It was like just a shoulder into him also. So, I mean, that's sort of scary that a guy's going down with another concussion like that so soon. And it's sad because of the talent he does have. I think that's the one thing that could hurt them for a deep run into the playoffs without him. So I agree with you that he does do a lot of the intangibles.
Concussions, obviously concussions have been around since the beginning of time, but if you look back through sports history, specifically in football, concussions barely kept you out of the game, and were very rarely talked about until the players' unions started wanting to sue the NFL because, laugh, but tell me it's not true. Wanted to sue the NFL because of all these concussions to these players. Even like Steelers running backs and stuff like that, that would go out and obviously are brain damaged if you watch the guy on TV trying to do analysis. Merrill Hodge, exactly. If you watch him do analysis of the game, exactly. What I'm saying though is the concussions are not worse these days or whatever. There's always been concussions in the game. But for a long time, they were pretty much ignored as like not that significant an injury.
Well, I don't think it was not significant. Sorry to jump over you, Smoking Jim, but I get fired up with these concussions. Now look at how many players were dying early. How many guys did you go, oh, he had too many concussions? We used to kid about that with people that played the sport. So I just think that as the players and the athletes train all year round now, you're going to have more of it because of the strength that they have, the speed that they have. Look, when you have 300-pounders, I think the scout here will tell you how many 300-pounders are going to 4.6 now. There's a bunch out there now, and they're not just linemen. So some of them are running backs.
Well, I got to disagree with you a little bit, Al, because
that's all right.
I'm not I don't believe in all this concussion stuff. Like I said, these guys, if you can't play because of concussion, there's somebody else that can take your spot. But I will say this, that the concussions have not hurt the players as much as the bounty.
I'm glad you got that.
I didn't know we were going to talk about the bounty
I'm
tonight.
glad you brought that up because we've got the
Is that a
NFL
movie?
making all this fuss about.
First, before we get into it, we have to explain to Al that no, this is not the movie, The Mutiny of the Bounty, or the remake called The Bounty. With,
I did not have a
Mel
concussion.
Gibson.
I was not concussed. That was a good movie,
As
though.
Chip is going to tell you, in the NFL, we have a bounty problem.
Yes, we should.
Thanks,
do.
Mike.
And I think Roger Goodell, I think this is going to probably end up being another example of how badly Roger Goodell is managing the NFL, because I think this is a fairly serious thing, and this is not something new. This is something that Buddy Ryan did when he was with the Bears. He did it when he was with the Eagles. He had bounties on the Cowboys. But, we're talking about making the professional football, safer for the players. And, here you've got people admitting, the coach, Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams right now, while he was the coordinator for the Saints, has admitted that he had a bounty, and he said it probably wasn't the right thing to do. But I did it, and even Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, knew what was happening and didn't do anything about it. And I think really what Goodell has to do is he's got to make an example of somebody, and unfortunately, St. Louis Rams are going to end up paying for this as well, because they're going to lose their defensive coordinator for the season that they just hired. There's going to have to be some type of sanctions against the Saints themselves. And, what about Sean Payton? I mean, what are they going to do because he didn't do anything? We saw what happened to Joe Paterno because he didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. I know we're talking about two separate issues, but to me, it's in the same ballpark. I think Roger Goodell, when he had the opportunity to show that the commissioner's office was serious about disciplining these teams, he didn't do anything to Bill Belichick, as far as I'm concerned, with Spygate.
Right.
Okay? I mean, to be honest with you, the $500,000 fine and losing a draft pick when they had already 2 first-round draft picks that year was a joke. He should have been terminated. And I'll go out as far out on a limb as saying that they should go ahead and axe Sean Payton and punish the Saints with a draft pick. But, then here's the Rams getting punished because of things that he did as an employee of somebody else. I think you got a real big mess here, and it'll be interesting to see what Roger Goodell, how he manages this fiasco.
And great point, Chip. And it also cost Brett Favre another Super Bowl.
He said he knew something was going on as he was concussed.
So did I.
As he was concussed that game. As he was concussed, he said, I just thought they were playing a little harder. But seriously, the bounty movies were good movies. Even with Humphrey Bogart and even with Mel Gibson in the later one. But anyhow, getting back to this.
Humphrey Bogart, K Mutiny.
All right, it was
Sorry.
close. It was close, thanks. Hey, I need to finish my thought here on the bounty.
I thought you did.
No, the mutiny was a little off of it because that's what we're having on stage here, a little mutiny on the bounty. But anyhow, some of this goes back to Greg Williams with Joe Gibbs. Joe Gibbs was known to hand out $100 bills, and the Hogs on the team got a little PO'd about it, so they'd have their Hogs night out. So some of this goes back to Joe Gibbs in his first term with the Redskins. And then when he come back, now he doesn't remember anything like that. And Greg Williams was on his staff at the time. So obviously some of this is ingrained in certain teams, maybe all the teams, because like I've said throughout my time on the show, that I do believe everybody's looking for an edge. Spygate, steroids, who knows what, stealing signs. So look what's happened here. You had a culture that some people were willing to pay $5,000 for something. Some of these guys were insurance salesmen and shoe salesmen in the off season. If you gave them an extra couple $100 to do what they like to do, hit somebody, and some of these guys like to hurt people, as Smoking Jim will tell you. Some of them do want to hurt you. But a guy like James Harrison, I don't think you'd have to pay him a bounty. And there's other guys, they're going to play the same way. But maybe somebody else, they're going to take that shot going towards the sideline, or maybe somebody's holding a guy up an extra second. Maybe they take that shot to take him out of the game. I've watched sports long enough What do you think? 412-831-3304.
I'd like to make one more comment in regards to this bounty thing. Now, these players were accepting cash payments after they had big hits or they knocked somebody out of the game. Well, maybe the IRS might want to investigate what their tax returns are, because if they're getting these cash payments after games, was this income that they claimed? I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that go on here besides the NFL policing itself. They could have opened up Pandora's box here.
Well, they can play that off as promotional earnings.
But if they didn't claim it, it's still...
Some
Just
things don't have to
remember,
be
the
claimed,
greatest
but
criminal around, Al Capone, got taken down by the IRS. So I got to agree with the prophet here. He might be on to something. The IRS might come in here and shut the NFL down.
Well, you know what Al Capone was known for?
No, what?
Beer.
Are you him in Beirut?
And hot dogs.
In Beirut? I thought we weren't talking about Babe Ruth because of speakeasies and all that.
Right,
What
exactly,
did we have?
beer.
Prohibition.
Well, anyway, one of the, I don't think, personally, I don't know that bounties are all that big a deal, because I don't think it really makes the players go out there and try to hurt somebody anymore than they try anyway. If you're a player that wants to hurt someone, you're going to want to hurt someone regardless. It's a black eye on the sport. It makes the NFL look bad. So Goodell may or may not do anything about it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as you might think. Specifically, the draft will come up and all that stuff will go away because people will be doing their drafts and all that.
Mike, I got to disagree with you on that one.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to go
But anyway,
away.
the Steelers. I mean, you've had players on the Steelers that have done similar things. I would be really surprised if players like maybe Greg Lloyd might not have given a little bit of incentive to his teammates. And some people, I mean, whether it's $100 bill or a star on your helmet, or whatever, players sometimes do things like do that for an incentive, or sometimes managers, sometimes even I guess in Gibbs' case, head coach. Do something to give that little bit of an incentive or a reward for what they consider a good play or something like that. So
well, there's one other factor that I think is going to force Goodell to have to do something. Is right now the NFL's got 600 lawsuits filed against it by former players. Some of it concussion related, but basically related to injuries that happened to them while they were playing, which they claimed they weren't aware that they could get injured playing football. Now 20 years after they're there. So, with all of this talk about all these lawsuits and something, and then they've got the bounties for hurting people, I think they're going to be forced to have to do something.
no.
I agree, and I think there's going to be suspensions handed out. I think Williams might get a year off. I think they're going to take some of the Belichick rule where it's $500,000. I think Sean Payton may even get a few games off himself, just because they do have to do this. Look at all the young kids out there. What are you teaching them? That bounties are fine, whether it's a star on your helmet or a $100 bill. So they have to at least show that the NFL will be the no-fun league forever. So they will try some of that.
Speaking of young people, I was courtside at Duquesne University Palumbo Center, where I was sitting under all the NIT banners that hang from the rafters at Duquesne, but for the high school WPIL championship. So just wanted to send out a shout out to some of the teams that were victorious. Gateway High School won Quad A for the second year in a row, third year in a row that they were in the championship game. Congratulations to Gateway
Your alma mater?
Yeah, the Gateway.
University of Gateway.
Beaver Falls beat Monessen in the double-A game. The girls, Vincentian, with the aid of the officials, beat North Catholic, who was dominating the whole game, but down
How
the
many
stretch.
points did the officials have?
What'd you say?
How many points did the officials have?
And I tell you what, those girls for North Allegheny, my heart went out to them, especially the seniors. They were crying uncontrollably. It's a shame the referees took the game off of them. And also, maybe the best game that I've seen, and everybody talks about the superstar basketball player, female from Gateway, Destiny Brown. But I tell you who's going to Baylor that Chip spoke about last week. But there's a girl, a junior for Hopewell.
Whoa.
Named, I can't pronounce her first name, but she got a hyphenated last name, Walker Kimbrough. Only a junior, 5'11", can do it all. Had 35 points, brought the ball up the court, and they defeated South Park, who's coached by Reggie Wells Sr., and his assistant coach is his son that plays for the Arizona Cardinals, Reggie Wells Jr., but that didn't stop Kimbrough from lighting him up for 35. So congratulations to all the winners.
Hey, what about your Obama Academy? You talked about them last week. Didn't they win a game or something?
Well, they got beat by Alderdice in the championship, but both of them qualified for the PIAA championship.
Okay.
So they'll be going in, whatever brackets they'll go into. But, the Quad A will be dominated by Gateway. Out in the East is Chester. In Lower Marion is ranked a little ahead of Gateway right now, but I think Gateway has the best talent. Gateway has a 6'10" center that is unbelievably athletic named Barnett Harris, and can run the court. He can play defense, slam dunk, shoot the threes, dribble up and down the court. University of Pittsburgh ought to give him a scholarship. I think he fits well in the ACC. They have a superstar guard that's 6'6", a point guard by the name of Tyler Scott. His dad Rod Scott played at Duquesne. His mother's the all-time leading scorer in Pitt history, Jennifer Bruce.
Did
His
you
sister,
call Jamie Dixon up or what?
His sister, Shayla Scott, was a great player for Pitt. But we can't call Jamie Dixon up because he got grade problems. We maybe can call her prep school. We can call her prep school because Scott won't qualify, I don't think, for University of Pittsburgh right now. But he get into prep school, and maybe later on, if he gets his grades up, he can get. Because Calipari actually came and took a look at those guys last year in the spring.
Well, the grades aren't going to stop Calipari from signing. That would be no problem whatsoever.
Calipari will get his best year of college out of him and send him on to the pros.
Another Pittsburgh guy that's successsul, Calipari here. That's my pick to win it all.
The nice
Go
thing
Coach Cal.
about Scott is he's actually from the Pittsburgh area, whereas Barnett Harris, I believe, is from Bucks County.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
His dad's from Detroit, but
Does he live in an apartment complex that is nearby, or is it a regular house?
So, but yeah, Gateway has a nice team. I'll tell you. And as far as the Obama Academy, there's no reason to be ashamed at all of losing to Alderdice. Alderdice is a very nice basketball team too. So hopefully they'll both do well in the future in the playoffs or whatever. The Gateway team, especially, you said we've talked to Barnett a few times. He's a very talented basketball player, real good kid too. So Gateway probably go most of the way again.
Those are great insights, Smoking. With an assist from Mike.
We've got high school basketball. Got the tournament coming up. Big East tournament. Pitt won a game.
Wow. Yes, they
It's
did.
on a one-game winning streak right now.
Yes, they did.
If they win 4 more, they
Four
might
to
get
go.
an invite to.
4 more to go, and they can get their dance card for the big show. But
Like Chip the Prophet said, they need 5.
we'll see tomorrow at 2 when they take on Georgetown.
Yes, we will. Probably by about 2:15, we should be sure. So,
It's been that kind of year. You're right.
yes, it has. Georgetown's a pretty good team too. Chip, you're the Pirate fan.
Sure,
We've
there's
had
been
some big Pirate news this week.
Big Pirate news this week. The Pirates locked up Andrew McCutcheon for the next 6 years, and they signed him for $51.5 million, which to all of us sounds like a lot of money, but in the world of baseball, I think the Pirates are going to end up having gotten one of the better bargains in recent memory. They've got him locked up for the 3 years that he was he would have been under arbitration, and then the first 2 or 3 years of free agency. And actually now they're paying him enough to keep him here and to keep him happy. And we'll find out if he's going to be a $100 million ball player. I know he's got all the tools and could potentially be that kind of a player. But now, we'll be able to see what he progresses to in a Pirates uniform. And I think it was key for the Pirates to keep him because, I think he's a great draw for them. There's a couple of other pieces that they ought to start working on. And I know they're into negotiations with Neil Walker, who's a local product from Pine Richland. And, he would be another person that would be worth keeping just to keep the local fan interest going. The Pirates kind of stumbled a little bit out the gate. Their first spring training game, they had a little bit of problem fielding the ball, and then, a couple of days before that, A.J. Burnett fouled a ball off of his face and broke his orbital bone around his right eye. And, they say 8 to 12 weeks is what they're looking at for the recovery time. I'm hoping that it can be shorter than that. I don't see why you would need to be off 12 weeks in baseball. It's not like James Harrison wasn't off for that long, and he was hitting people with his head. Baseball, pitchers don't really get involved into a lot of contact. I'm hoping that, he can stay in shape and get back sooner because I think he's going to be a big asset for the staff this year.
Yeah, but one of the things with getting in shape, he needs to throw a lot of pitches. And that's the problem. Even though he's not taking contact, you have to get your arm ready for those 100 pitches that they have. So you have to build up that. And that's one of the problems. Now it's going to be like spring training is starting back over again for him. And that's why it'll be a little difficult. Even though he's a fighter and a feisty guy, you still have to have that arm ready. You got to get all the shoulder, the lesions and everything. You got to get them loosened up. You got to rip that back up so you can throw the ball again. So there's a lot of things that go in there physically that you need to do. And that could delay him. And to me, it was the same old Bucks that we got this bad luck, because I am a Pirate fan. But, I mean, come on now. The guy's coming from the American League, and he's bunting the ball right into his face. I mean, it's funny, but it's sad. But the one thing I want to give at least a compliment to the Nuttings, because I'm not a Nutting fan. This was actually something serious by signing McCutchen up here for the $51 million and everything else, and his option year is $14.75 million. So they're showing some serious money that they want to keep a good team up through the middle here, and that's what helps. So I mean, hopefully they continue to spend a little bit of money on some quality ball players and let them prove whether they can be winners here. We do need to change that culture, or I'll be right again for the 20th year. So.
and Alan, I'm hoping that I prove you wrong and the Pirates prove you wrong this year. But, not only did he just throw money around, he's not throwing money around just to throw money around.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
The moves that he made with Burnett and with McCutchen, these seem to make sense for, for this team. And, obviously time will tell. But he's made more moves in the last 2 years than they made in the last 18, to kind of give you a little bit of a feeling that, we may be getting a little, closer to the top of the hill here. And, we still got a ways to go, but you got to start somewhere.
Well, Chip, with last season they had a great run, but it was all pitching. There was no run production there. Absolutely. And eventually the pitching petered out. What's different this year as far as the run production? I think obviously if Burnett can pitch, he might make a small improvement to the pitching staff if he's able to play. But as far as the new additions to the batting lineup, I don't know, Nate McLouth. I don't see him as the answer. What do you think is going to allow them to produce more runs this year?
Looking into what some of the key players on the team, and the key players that are on the team that I look at are people like McCutchen. They need Garrett Jones to produce. This is a guy that could probably hit 25 home runs. They need him to produce, and they have worked very hard over the winter trying to improve the areas they were deficient in. Andrew McCutchen, for example, went this winter and went with a conditioning coach and worked on his speed. And he said one of the parts of his game that he really feels that he could improve on is his base stealing ability. And, I think, getting people on base, getting them running, just getting that attitude. Alex Presley was somebody that was up and down last year from the minors. The kid's great in the leadoff spot. Jose Tabata was out for a fair amount of time last year, injured. Pedro Alvarez needs to be the kind of player they envision him to be. There were some players that underperformed last year on the offensive side that do have the potential to do better. And, for the Pirates to succeed, they have to improve at what they did last year. I believe that they've done the work to it, and we'll see what the season brings as far as whether they can produce.
I'll tell you the one thing that, of the people you brought up, I can't imagine why they didn't have Alvarez playing winter ball. He definitely needs to work. He definitely needs to play. I don't know why they would not have insisted
He
that
didn't
he
want
plays.
to.
Well,
You know what? You're paying me all those millions of dollars. Who cares what you want to do?
Well, you know what? Here's what they.
I agree with you, but that's what happened.
This is what I understood that happened. That the Pirates management told him at the end of the season, they said, you know what? We don't want you to go play winter ball this year. I think you've got your head so screwed up at overanalyzing every aspect of the way you're doing things that you're not doing things naturally anymore. And they just wanted to let him, gather his thoughts, refocus himself, and then come back and do the things that he's been capable of doing. As last year, everything he did was wrong, and so it was like a snowball. He was, in his at bats, he just got worse and worse and worse as the year went, and pressed, and so. Hopefully that tactic worked. If he comes out this year, starts out 0-2 on every count, and is batting less than he weighs by the end of May, then their experiment failed miserably. But there is a logic to why they did this, and hopefully it produces fruit for them. But we'll have to see.
Well, I just see them as a similar team. Maybe they won't be as streaky for that first 100 games. And now I hear the big thing on a couple of the talk shows when they had the Pirate coaches on, pitching coach, and they said that they're working out a little better. Not that they didn't last year, but as Mike said, they petered out towards the end. Well, they overachieved as pitchers, and Clint Hurdle was throwing him in. You had sometimes 7 pitchers in a game. So, think about it. Right. And he was trying to win games, like a madman, and it did work. But you're going to wear out a staff, and the offense was never there. I don't see a real big improvement there. Maybe some of these guys will hit a little bit better. Maybe Alvarez will get 10 home runs this year. But I don't know. They say he has a good work ethic, but he just looked confused up there, and you can't start in a hole like Chip's saying, 0-2 each time. That puts you on the defense, and he doesn't have the talent. Right now he's still young, and some of these other players do have to step up, and that's what I'm waiting for.
But 2 years ago, he seemed to be doing pretty well his first year, right?
And he has. And then I don't know if if he was listening to somebody try. A lot of times you're going to get a new coach, a hitting coach or something like that in, and they're going to try to tell you, well, try doing this differently. And there's some things you should tamper with, and some things that you should leave alone. And if somebody's got a natural talent for being able to hit the ball, you do it. One of the best hitters of the recent era, George Brett. He just had a system and it worked for him. Wade Boggs was the same way. These guys consistently batted .330 and nobody monkeyed with them. They just, they let them go up there and do what they did because that's what they did naturally. You can't teach that to somebody. You either have it or you don't have it. It's God-given ability. So,
on some of it's coaching, because when these kids are starting out, I've seen some of the baseball teams, especially in this Bethel Park area, they have a lot of great athletes, but they teach them to stand a certain way. And they teach them, to step into the ball a certain way, left-handed, right-handed, and they guide them that way their whole career. And here's what always bothers me. There's only a select few of athletes in the country that can be Major League Baseball players. So going with Chip's theme, why are you even messing with them if they've made it to that level? These are some of the best players in the whole country that they've made it here. And now they want to mess around with their stances, how they pitch. We've ruined more pitchers here in Pittsburgh with changing how they throw. They're throwing too hard in an awkward motion. Come on. They may only last 3 or 5 years.
Is it the same way in Bethel Park as it is in the Dominican Republic?
Not every neighborhood's like that, but there is some difference there. But there is talent. And when you have coaching, think about it. You know yourself, I'm sure you've coached a little bit in your life. Can't you help a couple kids? And that's all we ask for. But when they get up to the pros, maybe you need a little tweak here and there. Not change your whole style where now they think. I'm sure you were a good ball player when you reacted. If you had to think, hold my shoulder in, lift the bat up, step out to the left, keep my foot out of the bucket, watch for the curveball. And here's the other thing that people forget. Once you go through a season that you've had success, guess what these coaches are doing? They're doing what Smoking Jim does. They study hours of film, and they're breaking down every flaw that you see in a batter's stance. All of a sudden, the curveball, a slider, if you put it inside, if you put it outside, maybe this guy can't hit that. Maybe they were just throwing heat over the middle of the plate, and the kid got lucky for a while. But they find that out your second time through the season, sometimes the second year.
Good point.
Then guys are out of the major leagues.
Well, that has something to do with it, but also, who do you have batting in front of you? Who do you have batting behind you? That can also determine what kind of pitches you see and whether you're going to see a pitch that you can hit.
Exactly.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ryan Braun in Milwaukee this year. Now that he's supposedly he's not going to be juicing, but I think
he wasn't juicing. He's innocent.
The bigger problem is going to be the loss of Prince Fielder's bat. I mean, you got somebody like that can put the ball in the seats every swing. You're going to pitch. You're going to be the guy in front of him is going to get pitches to hit because they don't want him, the next guy to bat. So, it'll be interesting to see how that works out as well.
All right, guys. Well, Jim, we talked a little bit earlier about basketball. Calipari came up. I still think Kentucky's the team to go the whole way. We have the tournament coming up. Who do you like?
I agree with you, Magic Mike. I think this is Kentucky's year. I think they got 3 or 4 freshmen starting, so they'll be all in the NBA next year. But
all of them.
But I'm leaning heavily towards Kentucky. I was like Chip early in the year where I thought that Ohio State could develop, but they ran into some roadblocks. It's whoever can get hot, but I think that Calipari should have probably won it last year, and I think that they're really going to be focused in a tournament.
Let's not forget about the University of North Carolina. They beat Duke last weekend, and to be honest with you, of all the conference tournaments that I'm interested in paying attention to is the ACC. I want to see how that pans out because Duke and North Carolina, those two teams, every year they're candidates to make it to the Final Four. Kentucky's playing incredibly. Last week Michigan State was ranked number 5, and then they lost 2 games in a row. So I still think they're going to be a strong tournament team. But I somehow have a feeling that somebody's going to come up out of nowhere this year, and I don't know. Who that team is. There always is somebody in the NCAAs. That's one of the reasons why I love March Madness.
Maybe UCLA.
I don't know about that. We won't bring up some UCLA stuff unless Chip wants to bring that up.
There was the accusations about the problems at UCLA, but I didn't read in enough to the article to really speak of it. But
we'll continue this next week.
Problems.
We'll continue that next week.
Team that nobody mentions is the number 2 team in the nation, Syracuse.
Wow.
They appear to have a very good team. I don't know if it's because the rest of the Big East has dropped off a lot, but they seem to have a very good team. I guess they could make some noise. Chip, you said people come out of nowhere. I think the 2 teams to take a look at and maybe expect a little bit more from this year would be New Mexico and Creighton. I think those 2 teams are pretty good. I believe that they'll both get in at large bids, and I think that they might surprise some people, at least in the early rounds.
Is all Syracuse players drug-free right now?
That was only for a while, and that was only self-reporting, and that was recreational drug type of use, so none of that's official.
But I also like, if you talk about a long shot, I like Long Beach State.
Long Beach State, you mentioned that before.
They got a great goal.
What about St. Mary's? Look at the game they had.
Gonzaga.
Yeah, they beat
Virginia
Gonzaga.
Commonwealth made the tournament again.
Virginia Commonwealth too.
Shaka
Right.
Smart is an up and coming young coach who made a little bit of a splash last year, but they won their tournament championship last night, I believe.
Yeah.
And have sewn up a spot in the tournament already.
Go Robert Morris.
And what about
Robert
Kansas?
Morris is one win
What
away
about
from
Kansas
being
as a
eligible
team?
for the tournament. So,
Kansas.
that's a local team we could hitch our wagon to.
Well, I think Kansas might have a chance too if things fall right for them and how they're placed. They could get a little break. They have a pretty good team there too. They're right up in it.
Yeah.
And North Carolina, but I do have to go with Kentucky. I think they'll make it with their NBA future stars like Smoking Jim and Mike have said.
But we got to really talk about this. I tell you what, how about the Tiger? Masters is coming
Oh,
up.
my
Tiger
goodness.
just came off. I tell you what, golf is alive and well. And I tell you what, with a lot of NFL teams getting ready for the NFL draft, I know when the Masters come on TV, I know Coach Haley will be glued to the set.
But to speak to Tiger, I mean, Alan came up with a prediction a few weeks back where he felt that Tiger Woods would win the Masters this year.
Right.
And
Thanks,
Tiger
Prophet.
on Sunday
The Prophet
shot
remembers.
a 62 in the final round of a tournament, and in his entire career, he's never shot around that low on a Sunday afternoon. And he came up a little bit short to Rory McIlroy, and Rory McIlroy was able to take over the number one spot, number one player in golf. But Woods played as well as he's ever played on Sunday from the tee to the green, and his putter didn't fail him. And that seems to have been what has been biting him in the hind end as of recently. Is his putting has gone to crap. If he can continue to put rounds together like he did this past week, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with at the Masters this April.
I did see some of his performance. My dad used to always watch the Tiger. He said, I always hated golf until Tiger Woods come out and started playing. So he become a fan of Tiger Woods. So I watched that just out of respect for my dad. And the one thing is when he was doing his charge, this was fantastic because earlier in the week he said he had to work on his putting game. And he's been a little surly with people, and they're bringing up about the book that his caddy wrote and everything else. So he's getting a little upset, but he seems to play a great game when he's angry. Now, McIlroy, most guys choke when the Tiger's coming after him. He made some hellacious shots, which he could have turned into bogeys at any time. He made 15-foot putts like they were nothing there, and that kept him in the lead, and he won because of it. He actually beat Tiger because Tiger was on a roll. So he made the shots that he had to plus, and that's why he won it. And he deserves to be number one at this time. But I'll hold with my prediction there, Prophet, that we'll see the Tiger in the Masters in another green coat.
Wow.
So I'll stay with that.
No, he's working his way there. He
has to get
improving his
right.
game.
He does.
He's improving his game. If he would just play more frequently than once a month, I think it could,
He has a lot of waitresses
he could do a
that
lot
visits.
more, win a lot more tournaments. I think he only plays in 15 tournaments a year, and everyone else in the PGA is going to play 30 or 35 tournaments that are listed. But it would be nice to see him play more frequently, for golf fans, to be able to, to follow his antics.
Do you really think Tiger can win the Masters? Didn't Augusta make the Tiger-proof the greens out there?
He can do it. He can do it.
That course seems
All right.
to be suited for his game.
It is now.
He's won 4 of them already.
Yeah.
If anybody can win that
I
tournament,
think he can. I really do.
I'll tell you, I am not a big golf fan, but I like to watch Tiger Woods play. And I'll tell you, when he was good, he was the best in the game. The media did a hatchet job on him, like we've talked about before. I would like to see him get back to where he was and again be the best of the game and treat the media the way the media treated him. As far as that book, if I was Tiger Woods and somebody asked me about my caddy's book, that guy would never get another interview. Just because why? Why do you want to talk about the book if I just won this tournament or if I just shot a round of 62? You want to ask me about some yo-yo's book who's trying to make a living because I let him spend some time carrying my bag around. If I was an athlete or a politician or whatever, if the media did that to me, they'd get the same kind of treatment right back. I would love to see Tiger Woods get back to where he was, because he actually made golf exciting to watch, which, I mean, unless you're a golfer, I guess. To me, I don't think it's all that exciting to watch.
Are they athletes? Are they athletes? That's the question that comes up on our board all the time.
But that's
John Daly an athlete?
Yes, he was. He had some of the greatest skills and shots that you could make. The talent that he had was just unreal. But he did have a couple problems, and he didn't solve those problems there.
Well, I'll tell
between
you,
drinking and marriages and gambling.
John Daly probably was good at golf when he was drinking, for the same reason I'm good at pool when I'm drinking, because I'll make shots that I would never try when I was sober. I may have been able to make them then. I would never even think about trying them. So, Daly might be the same way.
No, he did have some talent.
Well, I guess we went the whole show without talking about Hines Ward. I know a lot of people in Pittsburgh's a little upset that Hines is gone, but I think it was the best move to make.
It was the right move to make. I'm sorry to see Hines Ward leave. He had a great career here. He was a great, player on the field. He was great for the community. His time had passed. And it's funny. I heard a comment made by Aaron Smith when he got released. He said, I guess somebody finally decided for me that it was time for me to stop playing because I wasn't bright enough to figure it out myself. And, that's what happens a lot of times with these athletes is they keep on thinking, well, I got one more year in me. But, there's younger people coming up faster, more energy. Your time eventually comes as a professional athlete. And, the Steelers really didn't owe him anything. And, I wish him well in whatever he does. But, it's a shame that he's gone. But that's life in professional sports.
Was the business aspect of it. He made $48 million here. So what could they possibly owe him? Now, as fans, hey, we think you'll stay young and catch that ball with no speed forever. But you know what? Everybody's career ends. We've all seen it. If you live long enough, you're going to see your so-called heroes on the field get slow, get concussed, not remember anything. But they were great players at their time. He does have 2 Super Bowls, was in 3. He has some milestones. Whether he makes the Hall of Fame, who knows? Like Mike and you guys have talked about, these writers, they think of different things, and were you the best among your peers? So he served his time. My hat goes off to him. Thanks for the good years. But it's better to retire 1 year early than 1 year too late, as Brett Favre did. If he would have just quit a year early, because he was one of my favorites.
Don't cut Brett Favre out. There's a couple of teams looking for a quarterback this year. You never know. Hines Ward's not the only Steeler that is on his way out. Aaron Smith, Chris Kiumatu, and James Farrier, all guys that were, Aaron Smith and James Farrier and Hines Ward, all very popular players here. Of course, you're going to miss them. But Steeler fans Pittsburgh fans in general, you will always hear people wish, hey, what if Lemieux would come down and play? What if Joe Green would come back? Bill Mazeroski's still alive. Maybe we could use him at second base. Pittsburgh fans die hard. They have the players they love, but they hate the players they hate too. So, that's just the way Pittsburgh fans are. Al, you want to...
Yeah, there's a basketball game, a Steeler footballers basketball team versus the Bethel Park Police Pals at Bethel Park High School. Now, this is the brand new high school. This is next Friday, the 16th at 6 p.m. There's 50-50 raffles, a silent auction, and we'd like you to show up there. There's 3,500 seats there that I've heard about. I'm not sure how many tickets they have. I would assume it would be for that. Here's the actual sign. So show up there.
All right, thanks, Al. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We will see you next week when you come back in for Pittsburgh Sportsline.